All right, so as you know, this time of year, there are a lot of rumors, which we talked about, a lot of smoke screens in the media.
Sure.
And Russell Wilson there's been a lot of chatter about him the last few days, Andy.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson put a deadline out to the Seahawks, saying that if he didn't have a deal done by yesterday at a certain time, I believe it was 5 p.m., that he would never sign a long-term deal with the Seattle Seahawks.
Right.
We talked about this a little off air. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think he had all the leverage, and it was a smart move on his camp's part to basically say, look, I'm not going to be a distraction. I'm showing up to off-season workouts and so on and so forth. I want a new deal by this day. If I don't have a new deal by this day, then I play out my contract, and then I play on the tag and whatever. The ball's in your court, Seattle. Do I believe that if his self-imposed deadline came and then Seattle offered him the highest paid contract in the history of the NFL 2 days after that he would not have signed? I don't believe that at all. But whatever, it was still smart that he put that self-imposed deadline on there. The stories are now coming out that we heard all the chatter about maybe he wants to play in New York and everything like that. Now I'm seeing the stories saying the most important thing for Russell Wilson was staying in Seattle. But I bought into the idea that perhaps he did want to play in New York. But what I never bought into once, and you were there listening to the conversation, I never bought into Seattle even considering this. You don't, when you have a top 5 quarterback in the league, arguably, and to me, he's definitely top 5, and if he's not, he's top 7. I mean, if you look at his numbers since he came in the league and everything that he's accomplished, he's ranked like first, second, or third in literally everything you can. Yeah. When you have that, you don't give that up for nothing. You don't. And they didn't, and they made the no-brainer move. He's now the highest-paid quarterback in the league. People freak out about that. That means nothing. You're the most recent franchise quarterback to get paid. Jimmy Garoppolo was the highest paid quarterback in the history of the NFL for a while. Derek Carr was the highest paid quarterback. So was Joe Flacco. It was Russell Wilson's turn. It was an absolute no-brainer. Seattle had to get it done, and they did.
Well, what's interesting about this, and I've listened to a lot of different analysts today on this topic, and the interesting thing, it was Colin Cowherd that broke the story that Seattle was going to trade Russell Wilson to the Giants.
And it makes me smile that he was wrong, because that guy's an idiot.
Well, he reported this, and he put some of the blame on the fact that his wife isn't happy in Seattle and wants to be in New York for her career, right?
Well, that part makes sense. I could almost buy into that a bit.
Exactly. But what's interesting is the team, Seattle Seahawks, are the ones that leaked this news to Colin because they knew he would report it. Mm-hmm. They knew he would report it without fact-checking it. And what it did was it put pressure on the Wilson camp right off the bat, because now the fans are upset because Wilson doesn't want to be a member of the Seahawks. He wants to go play for the Giants. And it puts a little bit of pressure on the Wilson camp to prove not only to the fans but to the team that he does want to be a Seahawk. Mm-hmm. And it helped get this deal done.
Sure.
But what a lot of reporters are stating, a lot of players can't stand guys like Colin Cowherd that will break this story without checking with a player because of what it does in these contract negotiations.
Colin Cowherd's entire business model is get emotional reactions out of fan bases so that he gets ratings.
Right.
And the more negative that emotional reaction is, the better. So he heard that absolutely. All he needs to hear is something from one person. In a lot of cases, I don't think he needs to hear from anybody. He's an idiot.
And it might not even have been the GM. It might have been one of the equipment guys that texted him and told him this information.
Listen, Colin Cowherd said, hey, I'm going to start telling the Seattle Seahawks fans, known like the 12, known as one of the biggest, most passionate fan bases in the NFL, I'm going to tell them on air today that Russell Wilson doesn't want to be there, and they're going to be so angry, and they're all going to watch my big, stupid face and ratings. And yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Wow. Russell Wilson signed a $140 million contract. He's now the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
And should be.
Or as you like to say, until the next one's given out.
Until the next guy gets paid.
There you go.
Listen, when Patrick Mahomes gets paid, Ray, you know that the idea of that scaling contract that Russell Wilson wanted where...
Yeah, talk about that. So he wanted for future...
Yeah.
Based on TV contracts and the gambling, what happens with the gambling? He wanted to have a portion of that.
Yeah, the way I think it works, the idea of this incremental scaling thing is that you're not paid a set amount per year, but you're actually paid a percentage of the salary cap.
That's right.
So as the salary cap increases due to all those factors you just mentioned, he wanted his salary to scale up with that. Never happened, but and it's going to be really difficult for somebody to start a precedent like that and finally pay somebody like that. I saw Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk today make a prediction that the first player to ever get that scaling contract is going to be Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
I'll predict that it'll be Pat Mahomes.
Because Pat Mahomes' contract comes up first.
It'll come up first, and trust me, when Pat Mahomes' contract comes up and he gets paid, he will be the highest paid player until, well, I might not even say until the next guy, because there's going to be a couple of guys the very year after him, and if he's still MVP at that point, MVP level, it might be hard to justify some of those guys getting like $2 million more than Pat Mahomes, but we'll see. We'll see.
It'll be interesting.